In this episode of Wisdom in Grey, host Kelly Jennings delves into the critical challenge of navigating misinformation in our modern world. Kelly discusses the complex nature of lies versus the simplicity of truth, emphasizing how misinformation can paralyze effective action. She introduces 3 key strategies to help listeners find clarity: strategic ignorance, source triangulation, and truth anchoring. These practical tools aim to help individuals avoid the confusion caused by misinformation and focus on verifiable facts. Tune in to learn how to build cognitive immunity against the overload of false information. In an era where falsehoods outpace truth, we navigate a digital web where reality and fiction dance an unsettling waltz. The COVID-19 pandemic laid bare our vulnerability to misinformation, as refrigerated trucks filled with the dead contradicted reassuring narratives, leaving 1 million American families to grieve in isolation. Today, in this perpetual fog of competing narratives, where self-proclaimed prophets of truth flourish and foreign actors orchestrate confusion, how do we find solid ground? The traditional gatekeepers of information, once trusted journalists and media outlets, now race to be first rather than be right, sacrificing verification for velocity. Muddying the waters has become a political art form, leaving citizens to wade through a swamp of competing claims, where distinguishing between crucial intelligence and calculated distraction becomes a daily struggle. The stakes couldn't be higher. COVID-19 showed us the lethal cost of misinformation, as contradictory messages left the public doubting their own eyes while morgues overflowed. Today's information ecosystem, polluted by both domestic influences and foreign interference, threatens not just our understanding of reality but the very foundations of informed democracy. How do we navigate this treacherous landscape and reclaim truth from those who profit from confusion? Let's explore practical strategies for citizens seeking solid ground in these shifting sands. Truth is simple but lies are complex. And that's exactly why those who spread misinformation love to create elaborate webs of deception. Think about it: when you're lost in a maze of contradicting stories, conflicting facts, and endless accusations, what happens? You become exhausted, overwhelmed, and eventually may stop searching for the truth altogether. This isn't accidental. Those who benefit from misinformation understand a fundamental principle: humans have limited cognitive and emotional resources. When we're constantly trying to verify multiple competing claims, debunk endless conspiracy theories, or figure out which expert to trust, we expend tremendous mental energy. This state of constant confusion serves a purpose: it paralyzes us from taking meaningful action. Consider how a magician operates. While you're distracted by their right hand, their left hand is doing the real work. Similarly, when we're caught up in debates about manufactured controversies or chasing down the latest sensational claim, we might miss the actual significant events and decisions happening right in front of us. Those who profit from confusion, whether financially, politically, or otherwise, have realized that they don't need to convince everyone that their lies are true. They just need to create enough doubt about what is true. When everything seems uncertain, when no source seems fully trustworthy, many people simply disengage or resign themselves to believing whatever feels most comfortable. The solution isn't to chase down every false claim or try to debunk every conspiracy. Instead, we need to step back, focus on verifiable primary sources, and remember that those who constantly muddy the waters likely have something to hide. Clear water, after all, has nowhere to conceal its contents. The next time you encounter a flood of contradicting information, ask yourself, who benefits from keeping me confused? What important issues might this chaos be distracting me from? Sometimes, the most revealing truth is understanding why someone wants you to stay lost in their maze of lies. Now, that's wisdom. Let's start with something that's been weighing on many people's minds. We're living in what some call a post-truth era, where distinguishing fact from fiction has become increasingly challenging. This concept has been researched extensively, and I've pulled some information from Psychology Today and some of the social circles holding these critical discussions. So, let's discover what's happening to our collective ability to process information. The fascinating thing is how our brains respond to information overload. Truth is inherently simple, but lies, they're like Russian nesting dolls, each one hiding another layer of complexity. When we're bombarded with contradicting narratives, our cognitive resources become depleted. It's similar to decision fatigue. The more choices we have to make, the more exhausted our decision-making abilities become. This describes exactly what many see in their coaching sessions and on social media behavior. Think of it like being in a hall of mirrors. Each reflection shows something slightly different, and eventually, you lose track of what's real. This confusion isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Those who spread misinformation understand that overwhelming people is more effective than convincing them of a single lie. This is a powerful metaphor. So, here are some solutions. I've identified 3 key strategies that listeners can use to navigate this maze of misinformation. The first strategy is what I call strategic ignorance. Now, that might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. Just as a good investor doesn't chase every market rumor, we need to be selective about what information we engage with. Focus on a few reliable, primary sources rather than trying to consume everything. When you see a provocative headline, which is usually clickbait these days, wait 24 to 48 hours before reacting. Often, the initial storm of misinformation will settle, and clearer facts will emerge. This is a brilliant segue that connects perfectly to my second strategy, source triangulation. Instead of asking whether something is true or false, ask yourself 3 questions. Who's telling me this? Why are they telling me this now? What don't they want me to notice? Remember the magician analogy. While you're focused on one controversy, what's happening in the background? These are practical tools I want my listeners to use right away. The third strategy is what we call truth anchoring. In sailing, an anchor keeps you steady in stormy waters. Similarly, we need to establish our own truth anchors, fundamental facts and principles that we can verify independently. When you encounter new information, connect it back to these anchors. If something doesn't align with verifiable facts, that's a red flag. So let's dive deeper into real-world application. Let's see, how do these strategies work in practice? Think of it like building immunity. Just as our bodies learn to fight off infections, we can develop cognitive immunity to misinformation. For example, when you see a viral social media post, apply my 3 strategies. First, practice strategic ignorance, don't immediately engage. Second, use source triangulation, check who's behind the information and what else is happening in that space. However, there's a danger of echo chambers. We'll discuss this in our next episode. Finally, connect it to your truth anchors. Does this align with verifiable facts? But there's also an emotional aspect. Many people feel overwhelmed. This is crucial to address. Emotional manipulation is a key tool in the misinformation playbook. When we're angry or afraid, we're more likely to share information without verifying it. That's why strategic ignorance is so important. It gives us time to let our emotional response settle before we act. So, as we wrap up, here are my final thoughts I would like to share with you all. Remember that confusion is often manufactured. When you feel overwhelmed by contradicting information, that might be intentional. Take a step back, apply these 3 strategies, and trust in your ability to discern truth from deception. And don't forget, you don't need to engage with every piece of information that comes your way. Focus your energy on what's truly important and verifiable. I hope this information helps you as we navigate through the nuances of life and the era of controlling information overload. I pray they are invaluable insights. To my listeners, remember, strategic ignorance, source triangulation, and truth anchoring, 3 powerful tools for navigating the maze of misinformation. Join us next week as we explore the danger of groupthink and living in an echo chamber.